Hey everyone, Colin here with Bible Uncut and Unfiltered. This month we are taking some time to talk about spiritual abuse because January is Spiritual Abuse Awareness Month, and we find that this is something not a lot of people are familiar with. Last week we said that spiritual abuse is whenever you have somebody in a real or perceived position of spiritual or religious authority over another person use that power, control, or authority to benefit themselves and harm the other person. Let's talk a little bit now about what that can look like in practice, because there are so many different ways that this can manifest, and it's not always super clear at first what has actually happened. A lot of times people who have experienced spiritual abuse don't realize that they have experienced it. So remember, this is something that's going to be a repeated pattern. Anyone can have a bad day, anyone can say the wrong thing, and that's okay. But when this is a pattern of it has happened over and over again by the same person or the same system, that is spiritual abuse. So what can it look like? Well, it can look like love bombing. When you join the group first and you are automatically welcomed in and showered with love, acceptance, gifts, kind words, but then as time goes on and perhaps you start to express views that are different from the group, that love and acceptance starts to peter off. In fact, they may even restrict your responsibilities or privileges in the group if you disagree with them. This could be perhaps not being allowed to sing in the choir or do a certain type of special music or teach a Sunday school class or preach a service, something along those lines. A lot of times this is going to be based in the spiritual leader's belief that they are the voice of God. Now, they may not say it that way, but if you are not allowed to express a difference of opinion within that religious setting without fear of the person taking it out on you or claiming that God is angry with you or going to punish you, that is a sure sign that they are putting themselves in the place of God. See, the Bible is a very complex document, and as you can tell if you've listened to our podcast, good people can disagree on how to interpret the Bible. But in a spiritually abusive system, the person in control is going to put themselves as having the one right way to understand the Bible, God, life, humans, even your own body and identity. They're going to tell you that this is the one right way to do it. And if you go against them, they're going to claim that you're going against God or the Bible. That is manipulative. That is spiritually abusive. No one has a monopoly on the one right way to understand the Bible. And part of the problem is there is very little accountability in a lot of religious circles for people in spiritual authority. Bible verses about respecting and obeying authority are going to be pushed to the expense of critical thinking and being able to think for yourself, reason, and give views that might differ from the group or the leader of the group. They'll likely restrict your actions. They'll try to tell you these are the things you can or cannot do within this group. And while every group has certain things that are in or out, it can be taken to the extremes, like manipulating and controlling your behavior, what is okay for you to do or not do, even outside the walls of the church. Sometimes there's even almost like a spy network where if you see someone else in your group doing something they're not supposed to do, you then rat on them to the leader and try to get them in trouble for that. That is very spiritually abusive. There are also fear tactics used, like saying the devil's going to get you or you're going to go to hell if you disagree with me because of that. Again, no one stands in the place of God. The person saying all of this is still a human. Just because they're standing behind a pulpit or have the title pastor before their name or are holding a Bible does not mean that they are actually speaking for God or any closer to understanding Him and His Word than you can be. Along with that, a lot of these groups will push an inability to trust yourself. They will use Bible verses like the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked to try to tell you not to trust your own instincts, intuitions, and emotions. So then when you start to feel concerned about something bad going on in the group, they can tell you that that is just you're listening to your heart instead of listening to God or the Holy Spirit or their leading. That is dangerous and spiritually abusive. Not only do they not let you trust yourself, they also don't let you trust other people. There will be an isolation from other groups, even similar groups to your own, if they do not exactly adhere to that specific set of beliefs. Sometimes they'll even isolate from family members or friends who don't share the exact same beliefs. That is a surefire way to create a cult really fast. It creates a vacuum of information where you are only getting it from one particular source or system of sources. We need a variety of sources of information in our life. We need the input from other people to show us if there's somewhere where we're going a little too far in one direction. But an abusive spiritual leader will put themselves as the one authoritative voice that you should listen to, or one particular set of authoritative voices, maybe from a particular Bible college or denomination or something along those lines. In cases where abuse has happened, be that some form of physical or spiritual abuse, there will often be victim blaming, where they'll try to ask, well, what did you do to deserve this? Or it takes two to tango, or something along those lines. There is no accountability, no understanding that sometimes people hurt other people, and that is just the responsibility of the person who hurt you. They can minimize that by saying, oh, well, they're a sinner just like you are, or we're all human, we all make mistakes. While that is true, if there is a pattern of this, that is an abusive system that needs to be corrected, not something that can just get written off as, oh, he's just a sinner, or oh, they just make mistakes as well. Sometimes abusive spiritual leaders will deny or gaslight to say that something didn't actually happen that did. If you are in a situation where you feel like you need to record a conversation or keep record of things that were said just to make sure that people trust your version of it, that is likely an abusive system. And we could continue to go on with all kinds of examples like guilt tripping and requiring to submit to spiritual authorities without question, financial control, misogyny, devaluing education, the list goes on and on. But this is not meant to be a comprehensive video. It's just meant to be an introduction to say, if these are things that you have experienced, you may have experienced spiritual abuse without even realizing it. This happens with a lot of people where they would say, oh, I've never experienced abuse. I've never been a victim because, well, I've never been touched a certain way, or I've never been hit or something like that. But abuse is abuse, whether it leaves marks on the skin or marks on the soul. It does not have to just be a case of something physical. If there is a pattern of these sorts of things that you have experienced in a religious environment, that is spiritual abuse, that is wrong, and you did not deserve to have that happen to you. Next week, we're going to talk about how to respond to it and how to heal from spiritual abuse.